Well, we got to WrestleMania 2. It was inevitable that I was going to eventually review a bad one. Uh oh. Hey, everybody, I am here to talk about WrestleMania 2. Arguably one of the worst WrestleManias of all time. I didn't believe it until I actually saw it. This is the first time I actually witnessed this show, and it was bad. It was really bad. Um, the things that I want to talk about as far as good goes, they were very good at picking who to go over in certain matches. It was very clear that they had their eyes on certain people. It was very clear that they wanted to get a solid amount of celebrities for this show. The Best America the Beautiful by Ray Charles was just gold. That in itself could sell it. And of course, an amazing tag team championship match, which we'll get to when we get to. There's your positives. Let's move on. Let's just talk about this show. Like, I just want to get this one out the way. So we kick off with Paul Orndorff and Don Morocco both ending in a double countout. I didn't get this. Why would they do this to both these men, two legends? It's like they didn't know who to go over, so they just said, "Screw it." Uh, double, double countout. Uh-oh. Yeah, and if you're wondering why I keep saying uh-oh, is because the commentary, that's how they knew what to say. Uh-oh, uh-oh, uh-oh. The fact that this was a three-place arena, um, yeah. I think New York got the worst one out of all of them, if I'm being honest. Because the next match was Randy Savage and George Steele. Now, I like both men. One of them is a legend. The other one, while a legend or well known, he's not a good wrestler. And this really showed it. The story was there. Macho Man was getting kind of a hard headed, especially for Miss Elizabeth because he just was so rude to it. Eventually, he turned face and it all worked out. But that was part of his character. The good thing is that we got to see Macho Man make his debut on WrestleMania. Jake Roberts defeated George Wells. I don't know who George Wells is. I know who Jake the Snake is, and good for him. He won. Mr. T and Roddy Piper in a boxing match, and this was the first time that we learned that boxing and professional wrestling should never cross paths ever. Did they learn this? Well, we did have the brawl for all. We had Floyd Mayweather and Big Show, whatever that was. So no, they didn't learn from this. They will learn about it now. I mean, I think now if you're watching this in 2025, you should know that NXT is doing the underground stipulation that has gotten over with the fans. I'm still not high on those, but I respect it for what it is. But I don't know. That's just my taste personally. But this match was just bad. At this point, people are already getting tired of Mr. T. Roddy Piper deserved better. The fact that he didn't ever win the WWF Championship is very sad and embarrassing. Um, and then this match didn't even have a proper ending. Roddy Piper got tired. He picked up Mr. T, body slammed him, and he got DQ'd. And even though Roddy Piper lost, he still looked like a badass. And is that what you really want to do to a celebrity? I don't think so. I don't think so. Uh oh. But we move on uh from the Nassau Coliseum in New York, and then we move on to the Rosemont Horizon Arena in Chicago, where the Fabulous Moolah beats Velvet McIntyre in a minute. Um, I hate Fabulous Moolah. I never cared about Fabulous Moolah. Moving on. Corporal Crincher versus Nikolai Volkov. Now, I don't know what happened between Iron Sheik and Nikolai Volkov, if they broke up or anything. But Iron Sheik moved on to the next match, which we'll talk to. But I don't know. Nikolai Volkov was always like the other guy. To me, he always come off as the other guy. He wasn't a bad wrestler. He showed that he was pretty good in last year's WrestleMania, even though Iron Sheik was the star of that match. Um, I don't even know who the hell Corporal Kirchner is. Michael James Prizzle. Yeah, I don't know who this is. So, and it was a flag match. Um, I mean, it was just like the typical America against anti-America. At this point, I don't care. This isn't for me, and I don't think it was for anybody. The WWF and NFL Battle Royal, which was won by Andre the Giant, and this had a good variety of star power, and I think this was one of the fewer great celebrity uses. I didn't really hate this one. A lot of people were like, "Oh, maybe a lot of these wrestlers could have been having a match," which is true. The fact that Bruno Sammartino had only one match ever in WrestleMania history, and it was this. I think they underutilized him. The Hart Foundation could have been doing something. Iron Sheik could have been doing something else. Pedro Morales could have been doing something else. A good heavy hand of people. I think deep down they wanted Andre to fight somebody one on one, but then at this point Andre was already getting older. He had a bad back, so I think they try to keep it as low key as possible. And one thing that I do remember, I believe this was the match where they had Joanne Rivers announce the competitors in this match. Maybe it was a different match. It might have been the Mr. T Piper thing. I will say this: Joanne Rivers, one of the greatest female comedians of all time, if not the best female comedian of all time. The fact that you don't even have her do something funny is just sad and embarrassing. They had Kathy Lee; she got booed out of here. Yeah, screw Kathy Lee. Like, but after all this garbage that I have to sit through, we finally get to the best match of the show: British Bulldogs and the Dream Team. Greg the Hammer Valentine and Brutus the Barber Beefcake versus Davey Boy Smith and the Dynamite Kid. And it is sad that the British Bulldogs never ended in good terms. But this doesn't take away the fact that you got to give them their flowers. The British Bulldog was, in fact, one of the greatest tag teams of all time. Too bad one of them ruined their legacy, and the other one is still going strong, even though, Sally passed not that long ago. This was, yeah, like I said, the best match of the show. And then another great celebrity usage: Ozzy Osbourne giving the British Bulldogs their flowers after they won the match. I can't really fault them for that. This was a fantastic match. For a 13-minute match, I keep saying that this was one of the greatest matches of all time, but it's really not. It's the best match of the show. That's the only thing I gotta give it props for. It was only 13 minutes. Can you believe that? 13 minutes, and this is the only good match. Oh man, it's so sad. At least you could say that Chicago ended in good terms because this was the last match that they had. At least they got to see Andre, and then they got to see an amazing tag team match. That's the good thing. And man, I could talk about this match, just the fact that it was just well put together. Four great competitors, and then like I said, in the '90s, '80s, '90s era of WWF, WWE, tag team was it. Tag teams were like the thing to watch if it wasn't for anything else. And yeah, I'm very happy that they did this match. Unfortunately, it gets worse for us. Ricky Steamboat beat Hercules Hernandez. Good that Ricky Steamboat won yet again. I believe at this point he was 2-0 at WrestleMania. Good for him. Um, but Hercules Hernandez, really, they could have done something way much better with Ricky Steamboat. I mean, he could have fought Roddy Piper. Hell, they could have ended in a time limit draw if they wanted to. They could have had Roddy Piper get disqualified. This is the one exception. I just wanted to see something better for Ricky and Piper. I wanted to see certain people fight each other instead, but we didn't get that, did we? Adrian Adonis defeated a guy named Uncle Elmer. I don't even know who this is. Stanley C. Fraser. I know who Adrian Adonis is. He's the one who fights Roddy Piper next year. And at the time, Roddy Piper's last match. But we're getting too far ahead of ourselves. Let's move on. The Funk Brothers, Terry and Haas Funk, defeated Tito Santana and the Junkyard Dog. And this was nice to see all four men, two four men that I respect and really like. But this match did nothing for me. It was very boring in my book personally. And yeah, like I said, the only thing that sold it well was the star power. Other than that, I really didn't care um, about the match. Um, but we can finally move on to what people really care about: King Kong Bundy and Hulk Hogan. Um, I really enjoyed this match for what it was. The star power, the fact that King Kong Bundy came out. A lot of people hate this match, rightfully so. It's very slow, and King Kong Bundy is not a good wrestler, if I'm being honest. But Hulk Hogan did the best he could with what he was given. And yes, Hulk Hogan is not a good wrestler. He's not even a good person, but he knew how to get people hyped for this match, and I think that's what was important. I do wish Hogan would have fought somebody else, but it didn't matter because it wasn't about necessarily in ring. It was about the stories they were telling in the ring, and less about what they were doing in the ring. And I think they did that solidly, and they did a good job with it. I would never watch this match again, but I was entertained. It wasn't the worst thing I've ever seen in this show. There was a whole lot worse. Maybe that's why I enjoyed it more than most people, because Hogan and King Kong Bundy, I don't ever want to see these two wrestle again, but I don't want to see this show again. The only thing worth watching is Bulldogs versus the Dream Team. That's the only thing I care about. Um, as far as an overall experience with the show, like I said, I was bored the first hour and a half. Um, and then the fact that they try to do three different venues, and they've admitted this is one of the dumbest things that they've ever done. They would never do this ever again. I do give it props for them trying, but yeah, they should have just stuck to one place. If I were to pick one of these arenas that they should have stayed on, it would have been Chicago, probably. I don't know. Something about them being in Chicago just fit. Plus, I think that one had the better crowd out of all of these. So I really can't fault them for that part of things. But yeah, that's just personally how I feel about this show. If I have to give it an overall grade, it would have to be a D. Um, again, just seeing some of these legends was cool, but you do kind of wish that they would have done something else. I think if they just kept it in one arena and then they moved some parts around, this could have been a great WrestleMania. They just really lacked picking the the types of matches that they could have done. And then they didn't even put a lot of effort in a lot of these. That's one of the biggest problems with a lot of 80s wrestling. The only thing that matters are the main events, and it kind of hurts the rest of the show. So, I don't know. I guess in the 90s when they start learning these lessons, at least when they get to the tens of WrestleManias, like the first nine, they really heavily push this agenda of only the main event matters. Over time, they grow out of that, and then they start pushing other matches. So that's good. And then we kind of get a sneak preview of that next year when they have Steamboat and Savage. Um, even though that was a classic, we still talk about Hogan and Andre, and it doesn't take away from that. But for me, this was, yeah, like I said, I will never watch the show again. It is a very bad show. I'll give it a D. Like I said, um, but yeah, only watch Bulldogs and Dream Team. That's the only thing worth watching on this show. Um, that's it for me. We'll get to WrestleMania 3 in a couple days. Take care of yourselves, and we'll see you on the next one.